Hey everyone. Yeah, I haven't really done a vlog for a while, so figured I'd do one here on my way to work. Um, yeah, I hope you all had a nice Thanksgiving and all that. We're now officially in the holiday season. And I can tell you, it's been a really interesting November, I'll say that. I mean, here's what I mean. My nephew is home basically for the holiday, for the Thanksgiving holiday. He has to leave this Wednesday because he's going to Tokyo. He's in the Navy, he's got to go to Tokyo. And today, as we speak, my dad's getting ready to fly out back to Kansas City and thus back to Topeka. Yeah. And, we had a good time, a good family time and all that. What's funny about this is, I get, when parents divorce, even as you get older, you kind of think that they should put the differences aside if, at least for the holidays, to spend time with family, right? Well, the situation between both my parents was kind of like, as my mom would say, kind of awkward. It's like basically she could not bring herself to put that difference aside and spend time with the family. And first of all, before you say anything, my mom's a born-again Christian. If she makes mistakes and all that, she asks God for forgiveness. She always asks for the forgiveness of her sins. But here's the thing. Here's the thing about my situation with my family. Now, it was 7 years ago, or 8 years ago actually, the last time something like this happened. Now, at that time, though, it was a little over a year after my grandpa had passed. So, I basically made the decision to move back to California, and be with family. And that's what I did. I made the decision to come back and live with family. So by doing so, I spent my first Thanksgiving back here with my mom and her family in Hayward. Rewind 8 years later, and things have definitely changed. But it's almost like the same scenario, nearly a decade later, basically 8 years later. Same scenario almost. The only difference is my mom went and spent time with her family or her sister's family in Tracy, and I spent time with my family here in Patterson because my dad had flown in from Kansas City, and my nephew, like I mentioned, was home from the Navy, which he's got to go back to on December 2nd. Hold on. So, anyway, like I said, he's got to go back December 2nd. He's got to fly out to Washington, D.C., and then go to Tokyo from there. Or around that vicinity anyway. But here's what was interesting, what made this very interesting and unique this year. Now, like I mentioned, you think that with like some families, maybe a majority, a minority, whatever. But with well, let's just say with certain families out there, or many families out there, that they would put the divorced parents would put their differences aside. Somehow, but people don't know when to wait their turn to turn the car. But anyway, like I said, there are families out there where the divorced parents do put their differences aside to spend time with their families. And sometimes they end up becoming just friends. And, they become good friends, the only connection is they've had kids. Now, when my mom originally heard that my dad was going to be here, she had told me that she would at least make the effort because of my nephew. But I don't know what happened. I don't know if it's because of a friend at her school or a fellow teacher she works with at her preschool, but is going through a similar situation. But she suddenly decided that she didn't want to be around. She decided, I'm going to go and spend it with my younger sister and Tracy. The reason being is because she basically felt it would be awkward to be around my dad. And when I thought about this, I was like, okay, how can it be awkward, seeing as though you talk to him on the phone at times? You actually talked to him last year when his mother, my grandma out in Kansas, passed. You embraced him, you hugged him when you last saw him in person. So, what's the big difference? So what's the big deal? What has changed? And many people have their own reasoning to think why she decided to change her mind and do what she did. She didn't even want to go to San Francisco with us to spend the last weekend with my dad or my nephew. Yes, it was Thanksgiving weekend, maybe, and yes, she's getting to the point that she's not used to crowds anymore like that at Pier 39, but still. He thinks she would have done at least that, but she didn't. I mean, my sister says she kept reminding her, she told her, my mom said, basically it was like miscommunication or something, I don't know. So anyway, long story short, it's just one of those awkward situations. Now, my mom is going to try to spend time with my nephew tomorrow before he goes out on the 2nd, so we'll just have to wait and see what happens. But honestly, it was one of those very unique and unusual Thanksgiving holidays. It's just one of those things. And, it's just weird. I mean, my dad said because what my mom did was pride and shame. Kind of make your own, you can make your own opinion about that. Just a lot of stuff, and she says, and she says it would be awkward, but we all have our opinions about why the reason is. But anyway, that's all I'm going to say for this vlog. Let me know what you guys think. And again, I hope you had a nice Thanksgiving, and I am out.